And now we're joined by a very special guest. I feel like honored to have you on. Courtney Morgan, are you the GM of Alabama football? Is that going to be your title there?
Correct.
Uh, so happy to have you on. Courtney, I wrote a story about you a few weeks ago about you helping assemble two rosters that played for a national championship. You were the GM at Washington. You came over to Alabama recently with Kalen DeBoer, but before that, you were at Michigan. You've got a very nice resume. How's the last few weeks of your life been?
It's been good. I just like to clear that up. I don't think I assembled both rosters. I
Helped assemble.
I helped bring in some key contributing pieces that help both teams get to the championship. I think the class that I helped assemble at Michigan, I would say probably four of those guys were key pieces to their championship. And in Washington, I mean, Chris Peterson, Jimmy Lake had a phenomenal group of kids there when we got there, and then we brought in some really good portal guys to help get us over the hump.
Courtney, we always hear when a new staff comes in about, whether or not there's guys who are familiar with that recruiting area or new to the area. But like literally, when you come in and you got most of the 24 classes done, but you're looking ahead, is it as simple as just calling high school coaches throughout Alabama and in Georgia, or have you contacted these guys before just because everyone recruits the South? Like, how do you kind of get to know all these coaches?
I think I can only speak for myself. I think I could take as far as back as me playing at Michigan and having teammates from all over the country. I mean, I don't think there's a state that I don't have people that are tied to people that I can call people, can put me in touch with people. And, and then being at Michigan on the personnel side, it's another national recruiting team. So you spend time developing relationships at Michigan. And, the world is more connected than people know. Even having West Coast ties, the West Coast kids and the 7-on-7 coaches come down south to play in tournaments. And I think if you're a good person, you're good people, and you're a genuine person, people connect you with people. Like, when I land in any region, I have people who are calling me, telling me, you need to know this guy, you need to know this guy, you need to talk to this guy. And I think, my background of playing at Michigan, having teammates who are from Mississippi, New Orleans, Florida, the DMV, I mean, you name it, we have players on our team. And those guys go on to coach high school football, work in football. And I think it's just, I'm a people person. So if you're a people person, my Rolodex is pretty extensive.
Courtney, when you were at your previous stops, I feel like the strategy probably shifted pretty dramatically, right? In terms of, who you were scouting, the strategy in which you went to get those players. I mean, from San Jose State to, Washington and Michigan, these are different places in different parts of the country at different levels. Now taking this job at Alabama, as the GM there, has your strategy or thought process about how to accumulate talent or the way you have to build Alabama's roster because of the expectations that were set in place at that program shifted from maybe even a month ago when you were at Washington?
Yeah, I mean, you get the pleasure of recruiting at a very high level and having access and instant credibility with the top players. I think my philosophy doesn't change as far as the evaluation. I would even just now, 10 minutes before I walked in to do this interview, I spent an hour with Coach Molinquist watching probably about 50 to 60 corners and watching guys who are ranked high versus guys who are a little more unknown. And sometimes there's not a major difference in the movement of the players. It just happens that they're probably at a certain high school. They're with the right circle of people that can help them get a little more notoriety. I think my philosophy and approach to evaluation is the same. You're going to look at everyone and you're going to stick to your critical factors of what you need for your defense or offense, and then everyone gets evaluated the same. But I think being down in this region, you don't have to go far. At Washington, you're kind of isolated up in the Pacific Northwest, so you had to recruit heavy California, heavy West Coast. Here, I mean, you get in the car, you drive 5 hours. There's a lot of good football players, and I think, if you really hone in on, the 5-hour radius around the school, you could fill a pretty good class.
Courtney, when we were on the phone a few weeks ago, we were talking about how it was different at Washington than maybe it was at Michigan in terms of, fan perception or star ratings and things like that. And we're talking about, you now being at a place that signed 9 5-stars in a single class 2 years ago. How do you think that's going to shift for you in terms of your mindset? I know you guys are probably going to be attacking a higher caliber of athlete, just given where you are. But do you have to rewire your brain in terms of the starting point or the expectation of what you guys need to sign at Alabama to be perceived as successful there?
Yeah, what the expectations for the job are when you take it. But also keep in mind, Alabama athletic department and the whole university gives you every resource you can imagine to get those type of kids. From strength and nutrition to, everything you need to sign a 5-star kid, they have it. So you definitely have the tools to do it.
You're talking about watching film before you came in here. As a talent evaluator, what do you find more valuable? Watching a kid's tape or going to a game Friday night? I know that the staffers aren't allowed to go out, but watching a game tape or watching a kid in your own camp go against, if he's a DB going against like another 5-star receiver, what do you get more out of?
One thing I found interesting here, I think it's legendary, everyone knows. One thing Coach Saban did here and the staff before us and the staffs previously, his whole tenure, they did a hell of a job of getting kids to camp. That's really the best evaluation. It's impressive. We used to laugh when I was at Michigan or other schools, kids that you would want to come to camp to work out, and they're looking at you like, I'm not working out. Then you read, 3 days later, they did a whole combine workout for Coach Saban. Like, so I think we definitely want to continue to bring kids to camp because that's really been the standard here, and getting live evaluations before for those prospects. So we want to continue that and getting live evaluations. I think film is just a starting point, right? And then it's also looking at camp film, spring evaluations, and then get them to camp. Like, we're not really taking commitments unless you see a kid with your own eyes.
Hey, Courtney, when you look at, that little anecdote you said about Nick Saban and the kids that would come to camp that wouldn't camp with you at a previous stops and stuff, have you taken a moment to reflect on the job that you and Kalen DeBoer and the rest of the staff have been hired to do, which is to take over for maybe the greatest coach of all time? And in doing so, is that an intimidating proposition? And how much time do you spend in your position and other staff members that you're working with spend on studying and trying to internalize and become a sponge to a lot of the ways that Saban and his previous staffs did things at that school?
I don't have time to think about that. We played the national championship game on Monday, flew home on Tuesday. Friday, I want to play in the Tuscaloosa. And, every once in a while I sit back and think like, wow, we're at Alabama, but you got to work. We have a lot of great people who are here when we got here who were constantly learning about things they did that were successful, but also we have things that we've done that we think will be successful here as well. But we respect it. The number one thing you have to do when you come into any area, any school, is respect the people in the region, respect the high school coaches, respect the football. Just have a ton of respect for where you are. I think if you show respect, for people will help, not help you, but you give love, they give you love. So the first thing we did was want to just show respect to all the high school coaches and all the people in the area and surrounding states. But just really to answer your question, we don't have time to really sit back and have wow moments. We hit the ground running.
You've been at 3 major state universities, obviously Michigan, Washington, now Alabama. To varying different levels, there's pressure to take in-state kids. And Ari and I talked about this a lot. Was it 2 years ago? It was maybe the best year ever for Alabama, like in the state of Alabama. But there were like 6 top 100 defensive linemen. Obviously, you're not going to take them all. When you're at the state school, how difficult are those conversations sometimes with a high school coach and a kid who wants to go there? And on paper, most people, the fans, think he's good enough to go there, but you got to tell him or the coach, we're going with this other kid. Is that just part of the job?
That's whatever school you're at. But I think if you handle the situation with total transparency and you're mindful of that when you're recruiting the kid, you don't offer in-state kid unless you really take his commitment. We don't, the ramifications of that, of mismanaging that situation, could provide long-term consequences. So I think, like I said, it goes back to what I said: respecting the high school coach, and just being transparent. People, it's with anything. You tell people bad news, but they'll appreciate you being honest and respectful. I think nowadays in the climate of college football, people respect transparency.
Yeah, with the way that college football is adapting, I think that's a pretty nice segue to this. Is how much different is your job in recruiting in general in 2024 and late 2023 than it was, when you were at Michigan, 4 or 5 years ago?
In Michigan, NIL was in its infancy, right? So it wasn't a major player. I think people weren't educated on it. They didn't know how to really athletes, and no one knew. It was kind of in its infancy, so it's just new. It was just a word, it was a term, and I think now NIL has really changed the landscape. The transfer portal has really changed the landscape. I think the combination of the two, along with the NCAA calendar, has really shifted the paradigm of college football. So I think you're doing a lot of things at one time. You're trying to retain your roster, evaluate high school kids, manage your roster as people are constantly leaving, to make sure you're taking what you really need, and still trying to evaluate and communicate and recruit high school kids. And each recruitment is different. The way you recruit a portal kid is different than the way you recruit a high school kid. So making sure that you're prepared internally to present to each prospect, because they're both choosing schools for different reasons.
Courtney, I think our listeners would be interested in the logistics of of how you guys decide who to offer. Like, you might go into and say, we need 3 wide receivers. So you and your staff, are you the guys that you might find 5 or 6 wide receivers, and then you go to the offensive staff, Ryan Grubb and Coach DeBoer, and then you guys collaborate on who to offer? Or do you say, here's our top 3? Like, how does that go, and who decides who gets the offer?
It's everybody. I mean, I think basically the criteria we set forth as a staff for every position determines the offer. So if he meets what we're looking for, and then the character matches up, the person, toughness, and the intangible things you don't see on the film line up, then it's usually an offer. Both coordinators have say-so on their sides of the ball. So, and we make sure that the kids are fit, but we just make sure we set the criteria, something that we stick to no matter what. And then if the boxes are checked, then it's usually an offer.
Courtney, when you are at the national championship game, 3 weeks ago, with your current school facing your former school and the place that you played for, and then you're on a plane to Tuscaloosa 4 days later, I can't imagine the culmination of emotion that you probably went through in a 7-day period. Can you take us through what your personal life was like? Maybe not, crazy details, but I just mean dealing with all of those emotions, those life changes, the traveling, all that. Logistically, what was it like for you to go through all that?
Yeah, I'm pretty tired. We haven't had a day off since camp started in August, 7 days a week. But it's like you said, it was emotional because I have good friends on the Michigan side. Staff means, that's from the athletic director to the associate athletic directors to alums and donors, and the former team. One of my best friends, Ron Bellamy, is over there. These are guys I talk to throughout the season all the time, just checking in, having non-football conversations. And then the kids that I built bonds with at Michigan, and then the kids, you come to Washington, and I'm in a foxhole with the guys at Washington every day. So those are that's family. So it was tough. I hated to lose. I mean, I love them, but I hate to lose. But walking off that field was emotional. I feel bad for the kids because the work that they put in to get there, and to see them disappointed, and knowing some of them playing their last football game in life. You know what I mean? It sucks. It's almost like everything we did going undefeated didn't even matter when you lose that game. Like, you don't even want to hear about it. It doesn't even matter because you were that close to holding the trophy up. So it's tough. And even now, you think about it like, damn, we were close, but and then you go back and say, well, I'm happy, a couple of my friends are national champions, and they went through the same road to get there as well. So it's been a good sport. You were happy for them, but yeah, it was hard. And then to come and leave, pick up, and go to Seattle or Tuscaloosa at the drop of a dime, and we literally had official visits fly in that Friday, and then I'm telling them they have to go home, and then staff meeting, and we get on the plane, pack the bag with maybe 4 pair of underwear and some socks, and we're on the plane in Tuscaloosa, and I haven't been in Seattle since. So, but at the same time, it's a blessing,
Who packed your apartment?
It's still sitting there.
Ari, you need a little money on the side? You can go.
Yeah, I mean, I could move. I mean, I'll pay somebody else to pack, to actually lift things, but I'll help you out.
So
Courtney, real quick, Mitch. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to say that I'm like a national title snob usually on the show, and by no stretch of the imagination is what Washington did last year not worthy of remembering. Like, I hope that's not how you feel in the players.
No, at the moment,
yeah.
You couldn't look past that game. But, it was, I knew we were going to win that game. So, no, what we did was remarkable. I mean, we beat Oregon twice. We went undefeated at home. We won the Pac-12. I mean, we had a great season. It was fun, but the heartbreak of that loss, couldn't see past that.
Yeah.
Now, I think you used the term foxhole before, your national championship, you're not paying attention. And then you see, okay, well, Nick Saban's retired. At any point on your own, did you say, I wonder if Kalen DeBoer would be a good fit there? When did it occur to you that this might actually happen?
I mean, I knew we had one of the best coaches in the country. So any opening, his name probably going to come up, I wasn't surprised. But, also, know how much he loved Washington. Like, he really liked it there. So I don't know. I tell you the truth. December in this profession sucks because you just don't know. You think you know. I mean, who would ever thought we'd be playing a national championship on Monday, and then your life will flip on Friday? So you just never know. And it sucks because you just know it's a time where bonds are like broken. People you work with every day are moving on, going to different places, and it's that time of year.
We can't mention the prospects name by name, but you guys did a remarkable job with a young man who's a 5-star prospect who had decommitted after Saban left, and to bring him back in the fold. In terms of the symbolism of that, of showing that this is something that you guys are not only capable of, but have already done. Does getting your first 5-star in the fold, your first elite level athlete at a place that has done it so often, did that kind of make it feel like you guys are ready to run and on the right track, or what was that like?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to the guys that were still on staff after Coach Saban left. They did a great job of maintaining that relationship until the new staff got in. And the people that were here, Coach Roach and Denzel and Ashley and Kara, I mean, all the people here, they kept that relationship really strong. And Coach Shep came in, and Coach Shep, does his thing. If once you meet him and your wide receiver, there's not too many kids that don't want to play for him. And it was a big deal. And we made it a priority. When we walked in the door the first day, man, the athletic director gave us his name.
During the interview for the other story, we had a discussion that I thought was super interesting of the difference between evaluation and recruiting at a high level, and how taking the top 50 players in the country isn't really a pure evaluation because it's so clear and obvious that they're very good.
Or they're not that good.
That I wish we could keep you on for 3 hours, dude. Like I could go down that road if you wanted to. But in a world now where your competition is no longer teams in the Pac-12 and the Pacific Northwest, and your competition is Georgia and LSU and Ohio State and Florida and Miami and Texas and everybody else, is your job, I don't know if harder is the right word. Is it more stressful when you're going to be expected to, the recruitments, talent aside, are probably more high pressure because of the NIL situation. The pools that you're swimming in now are for athletes that are perceived nationally as high caliber. How does that shift what you have to do from day to day? And is it more difficult on a day-to-day basis or stressful for you?
It's definitely more pressure, but I mean, anyone who knows me personally, I mean, I'll say I'm built for this. This is, I think our staff knows, for one, we have a great product to sell. You just have to get in front of the kids and get them on campus. I'm a believer of getting kids on campus. So the number one thing is get them on campus. If we continue to get kids on campus, get around our staff, see what we have to offer. I mean, we are at Alabama, so yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but we also have an incredible product to sell, and that helps. It's worse for the people that have to compete with those schools that don't have a good product to sell. So there's schools in the conference that have to compete with those schools who have, less, like I said, a worse product or a harder product to sell. We got a great product to sell.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Mitch, can you think of any schools that have a harder product to sell?
I'm a Vanderbilt grad, so Ari's trying to get a dig at me, but I'm above it, so I won't say anything.
Can I ask one last question, Courtney, and then I'll get you out of here? You just said December sucks, right? I can't imagine what it's like to be competing for a national championship, coming up on the early signing period and the transfer window and coaching carousel all in the 30-day period. I say this because I'm working on a story and I want to know what your opinion is, and it doesn't have to be calendar related, but if there is a recruiting rule that you could change or you think is stupid or, is just point blank moronic, is there one that you would change if you were like in charge of all this?
Two.
Yeah.
One, let personnel staff on the road. All right. That makes no sense. You got people who spend all day evaluating kids, setting the recruiting strategy, evaluation process, talking to parents. Why wouldn't you let those guys on the road? Like, that makes no sense. In the NFL, scouts go on the road, right? So I think that should be changed. Number two, push back the portal day, like push it to after the season. And what they should do is also mandate the schools who are semester schools maybe have some type of admissions window where they can let kids in like February or the guys, because it's unfair. You got the quarter schools that can get kids in March, so they have an advantage in the portal. Because if you can get a kid in the school later, but semester school has to wait until May, right? So if there was another window where schools of either the admissions department will allow another entry window into school, like in January or early February, and then we think I push the portal date back to January and allow you to breathe a little bit and get through December.
Well, Courtney, the last thing I have for you is, what is your top 15 players on your big board and what states are they in? I'm kidding.
I'll talk to you off record. I still wouldn't tell you, though. I still wouldn't.
Yeah, still won't tell me. I could probably put it together if I paid close.
Yeah, see, Ari's ego. Ari thinks he could do your job at Alabama. So
no, that's not true. I think I could be a DPP as long as I didn't have to evaluate. I think I could set visits and be more of the strategic.
You have no organizational skills. You couldn't do that either.
Yeah,
But
that's
we're taking
probably
too much
true.
of Courtney's
Yeah,
time here.
I mean, I also think I could play quarterback in the NFL, but that's a whole nother issue. But Courtney, thank you so much for joining us, man. That was super insightful, and I know you've got a lot going on, and it means a lot to us that you think enough of the show and our relationship to give us your time. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys.